What's up guys? So last episode we're at Vietnam. This time we're going to depart from Vietnam to Hong Kong, Yantian, Xiamen, Shanghai, then cross the Pacific towards Panama Canal. On the way from Vietnam to Hong Kong, one of the piston rings in our engine broke. Piston rings, they don't break that often, but it's not uncommon depending on your engine type. If we kept the engines running, it will increase wear and heat and eventually causing damage to the cylinder and piston. The piston ring main purposes are to seal the combustion chamber, improve heat transfer from piston to the cylinder wall, and scraping the oil from the cylinder walls back to the sump. After a thorough inspection by the engineers, 3 hours stopped at sea, the chief engineer decided that it's okay to continue sailing the ship towards Hong Kong. Yes, that means keep the broken piston rings moving, knowing fully that it will increase the heat and the wear on the block. They will repair it after alongside because we just can't afford to drift in the middle of the sea and delay our schedule. Time is money for container ships. Okay, we didn't have a collision here, but follow the story and we'll get to it. I promise it's not a clickbait. Arrival Hong Kong, as I've always said, the port of Hong Kong has one of the most beautiful night views with city lights and mountains blending in together in an urban jungle setting with this futuristic cyberpunk feel to it. 8 years into my life at sea and countless coming in and out of Hong Kong waters, I'm still enchanted by it. I've made several time lapses of Hong Kong, so look for the time lapse section in my channel. Once alongside, the engineers got straight to work, took out the whole piston, replaced the rings, put it back. I was busy with cargo operations, so could only take a peek through the CCTV. The piston is gigantic. Since it's always tucked away, I've always forgotten how massive it was. And well, if engine is of your interest, I've made a engine room tour of the ship before. Check it out. It took the whole engineering team 8 hours working over midnight to replace it. In the end, they have the engine in perfect condition, ready for departure. Meanwhile, over at the cargo operations side, one of the containers had a leak and spilled beans everywhere. This one. Had to call Bosun and his deck crew to come and clean. In addition to the repairs, we had bunkering, provision stores, annual service of equipment, so it was quite busy and chaotic at Hong Kong. After Hong Kong, it was the China ports, Yantian, Xiamen, Shanghai. At this point, the coronavirus was so bad that they didn't allow any crew change or shore leave. And well, like I said in the last vlog, we had to take temperatures in every port. 2 weeks later, now I look back at my previous vlog, it proves my point as to why ships are so vulnerable to the virus and what negative impact it has on the shipping and world economy. The journey and port stay at these Chinese ports were relatively uneventful. Normal discharge and loading of cargo. Successful and smooth docking until, well, arrival at Shanghai, and here comes the boom, the near collision. Upon approaching Shanghai, we spotted hundreds of fishing boats. And it's quite common in China, so we weren't too worried about it because, well, usually when you approach them slowly, they will sort themselves out as they are so maneuverable, so agile, able to change direction and speed in an instant. In contrast, for big ships like us, it takes us a few minutes to change speed and or course. So it's not easy for us to weave past through. Now, as we get closer to the group, we noticed there was something strange. The silhouettes were too big to be fishing boats, and that's when we realized they weren't 50-meter fishing boats at all. They were 100-meter barges, all of them. More than 200 of them in a line, and we can't see the end of the line because there's just too much. Our electronic systems were overloaded, and with binoculars we can only see endless lights. What made the matter worse was that they were traveling so close together that there was no safe gap for us to pass through. The captain at one point commented, and I quote, "I've been sailing for 40 years and never seen a situation like this before." Here's a little context. Our ship was 366 meters long, 50 meters wide. Each of these boats have about a 100-meter gap. Hundreds of large ships, us traveling at 12 knots. The Chinese ships are known that they don't follow collision regulations, so normal rules are out of the window for them, and thus increasing the danger for us. It was extremely difficult to shoot for these moving gaps. And the biggest risk is that they can all take different actions when we get closer to them. And if they do something random, which is highly likely, we'd have no control over the situation because we can't change speed or course as fast. For example, if they don't give way and our speed is too slow, we will end up either colliding or forced to do a round turn trying to avoid, finally end up in more dangerous close quarter situations. By collision rules, we shall not alter to port as we are to stand on vessel because, well, if they decide to give way, then a collision will occur. So our only option was to either alter starboard or slow down. But if this happens, then we're stuck, unable to do anything. We couldn't slow down to stop and wait for the end of the line because, well, there's no end to it. We'd have to wait 4, 5, or even more hours until the whole line clears. And that's unacceptable because we have a schedule to keep. Again, time is money for container ships. So finally, we chose the lesser evil. What ended up happening was captured in this time lapse. Reduce speed to bare minimum and slowly creep up and shoot for a gap. Once we commit though, our fate literally lies with these Chinese barges. This barge decided to cross our stern last minute, and this barge decided not to give way and cross right beneath our bow. The worst that we feared happened. If you drive a car, think about having another car speed right across, right under your nose of your car, and you can't even see it over your dashboard. It's quite scary. Our palms were sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already, mom's spaghetti. We knew we couldn't do anything. We could only pray that the barges were sober and take the proper action to avoid us. We were nervous, but on the surface we looked calm and ready. Right at that moment, the bridge was dead silent. The front barge probably passed with less than 50-meter clearance, while the aft one somewhere around 30 meters. Because they're much smaller, so to them it may seem fine, but to us big ships, we shat our pants. After this ordeal, we arrived in Shanghai safely. Moored, cargo, unmoored. Next stop was 20 days across the Pacific towards Panama Canal into the east coast of the United States of America. Sunrise, 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 more sunrise as usual as we travel east. Scary looking storm brewing. We went to a series of bad weather where the conditions are just not ideal for time lapse. Over 60 knots wind. This antenna was known to bend and break. Luckily, it didn't. It's a miracle how these antennas survive such rough weathers. Eventually, when the weather cleared, a dense fog set in with zero visibility. All we could do was navigate by radar and electronic charts. Hey, Henry. Cut up a box just to cover my window because my blinds are useless. Passed by Mexico into Panama Canal. Next vlog will be about transiting the Panama Canal. Now, Panama Canal is sort of like Suez Canal, but because of the water level difference between Pacific, Atlantic, and the Gatun Lake right in the middle, where it's up on the mountain, they had to put locks in place so that the fresh water won't leak out. I'll explain in detail and include time-lapse as always. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification for it when it comes out. Like and share this video with your sailor friends if you like this video, and I'll see you next week.